Germany is back in the building! Because for 20 points in Winter of European Automotive, you can grab yourself the Mercedes-Benz AMG SL63 from 2021. This thing boasts 577 brake horsepower, 590 foot-pounds of torque, and it weighs a whopping 4,305 pounds, and is apparently classed as a super saloon. Why, I have no idea. Oh, and a 4-litre engine. Probably should have mentioned that. I've got to say, this is probably one of the more meaner looking Mercedes, especially I think if you put this thing in all black. And if you press down on the left stick, we'll see any second, it is also a convertible. We've finally got a brand new convertible in Forza Horizon for the first time in a very long time. Going to the back, it does look pretty cool, but it does look a bit like a GTS and the Mercedes-AMG GTR as well. And going to the inside, it does look pretty cool because if we rev this thing up, yeah, that does look pretty cool, doesn't it? And then going to the right hand side, we've got a screen down there with every single thing we ever need to know about this thing. And now let's go ahead and take a listen to that 4-litre. And while we're at it, over here is a little teaser for Monday's video. Can you guess what it is? Alrighty, here we are now over in the upgrade shop, so we're going to jump straight to conversion and see what we have in terms of engine swaps. We've got ourselves two, which are the 5.2 litre V10 and the 6 litre V12 racing engine, which sounds a little like this. I don't quite know what it's from, but it does sound pretty cool and very mean indeed. Going to drivetrain swaps, we can go ahead and make this thing rear wheel drive should we so wish, which actually does take it a little bit further down in A-class, but not by too much. Going to aero and appearance, I've got a feeling I know what this is, but we've got ourselves some Forza Aero for the front, and then going to the back of the car, we've got ourselves some Forza Aero over here as well, and a notification that my controller battery is low. You could have picked any time, but you picked now, because of course you did. Going to tyres and rims, this thing starts itself out on some sport tyres. We can go ahead and put this up to semis, but it will take it up into S1, which is kind of what we don't want this thing to do, because I want to keep this thing in A-class, just because, well, I like a challenge, and, you know, cars that are painful to drive, apparently. So instead, we're going to make this thing a little bit lighter. We're going to go ahead and slap on some decent suspension, and hopefully we'll be able to fit in some anti-roll bars as well. There's the front. And do we have enough space for the back? I hope we do. We do! It takes us straight up to A800 exactly. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. We're now at 4,193 pounds, so a little drop in weight, same amount of power, and we've only spent 13k. Although we're on sport tyres and stock brakes. Oh boy. Okay, so here we are now at the paint shop, jumping over to advanced. We've got nothing there, but in terms of manufacturer colours, we've got ourselves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different colours, and this thing looks absolutely evil in black, and honestly, I kind of really like that. Although we do have the fan favourite, a ketchup red, and also the brand new fan favourite, mustard yellow. I never thought I'd be comparing colours to condiments, but I guess here we are. So this car does look pretty cool in pretty much any colour. I think we've very much understood that by now, but the bit that I've not understood is how on earth I've not seen one of these yet. Seriously, they look like really cool cars with a pretty big engine, and I believe they are also turboed from stock as well, which is why this thing produces around 577 brake horsepower. As you can see earlier, we've got the AMG brake pads on there too, or the brake calipers I should say, so hopefully this thing should be doing pretty good. But away we go. Let's go ahead and actually find out how well this thing will do. We've got ourselves a couple of Audis behind us. We've got another Mercedes up front. So hopefully, oh dear me, please turn. This thing is going to be interesting because I forgot I'm on sport tyres instead of semis, which means we're going to be a little bit more drifty than intended. Is that the Ioniq 6? Has that made a comeback? Ugh, I hate that thing. Genuinely, I actually don't like it. Because A, it's electric, and B, its upgrades are absolutely awful. But not nearly as horrendous as the price for this thing. We were trying to get not mullered by a BMW, and actually did a pretty good job. We actually managed to avoid that. Cool. But the prices for this thing are absolutely hideous. You can expect to pay $178,000 if you want one of these. And even though it's slightly cheaper in the UK, it is also very expensive at 172,000 Great British pounds. Although apparently you can buy them for like 108k, or if you want to buy one used on CarWow, it is around 77,000. So probably best to get one of these used. And past the Jaguar we go. Let's try and see if we can keep this first place to the end of the race. Again, we are on sport tyres, which is something that I don't usually race on. So let's go ahead and see if that actually makes a difference. And yeah, I'm kind of honestly really surprised that you're able to keep this thing into the top of A-class where it is. And oh god, I can feel the differences to that already. Alrighty, 95%, everybody is still kind of close behind us. We'll take the final little turn and go across the line, still somehow keeping ourselves in first place with this rather evil looking Mercedes, and a time of 2 minutes and 8 seconds. Not bad. So after that rather surprising result, here we are now straight back into engine swapped conversion, and we're going to the 6-litre V12, and we're keeping this thing, I think, all-wheel drive just for the sake of, I actually feel like being able to drive this thing. We're going twin turboed, and hopefully I think this might be a pretty good idea for a build. Let's go ahead and keep putting in some more power. That's up to 952, going with the turbos to 1078, and with the intercooler we get to 1144. That's not as much as I'd hoped, so it turns out I think we're going to go with this instead. And now, because we have the space to do so, we're going to go ahead and throw on some race weights and make this thing a whole host lighter than it was, down to 3,314 pounds, and we're going to go ahead and sort of chop over the suspension to off-road springs and dampers, because let's face it, you probably know where this is going by now, but we're going to go ahead and slap on some drag tyres and take this thing drag racing. So after all that upgrading, we're now sat at £3,288, 1,215 brake horsepower, and S1888, which is honestly pretty cool, and we spent 94,000. Honestly, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that this thing becomes good. But of course, it'll only become good if I do the tuning, which means we're going to be here for quite some time. Especially now as we've only got a 6-speed box, which is a lot easier to work with, than a 10-speed, which is what I think was in this originally, which is absolutely crazy. But yeah, I'm kind of hoping for something good from this, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Although thankfully you won't have to wait too long, because we're now here over at the back of the festival. Let's go ahead and get a wheelie check. Do we get anything? Kind of. I mean, the front of it lifted up for a second, but it's not really kind of what we're after, really. So let's go ahead and see how it does drag racing. So here we are now over at the drag strip. We've got a Supra that kind of really wants to race us, although I know this thing's going to lose because, let's face it, that thing's a built Supra. But let's go ahead and just send him on his way. 1, 2, 3, away we go. We're not on launch control this time, but we're just trying to get rid of that Supra, to be quite honest with you. But to be fair, we did a pretty decent job because I don't think he even went. So going through the camera up here, we've got ourselves 200 miles an hour, and then going off the end of the drag strip, we've got ourselves 221 and absolutely 0 brakes. Why does this happen? I just upgraded them too. Although now we're going to jump straight back to our upgrades. We're going to go ahead and put this thing back onto some racing springs and dampers, and go and find ourselves some decent tyres for once, because my god, I think we've earned it. Going from drag racing all the way to a semi-slick at long last. Man, this thing really needed it. And you know what? I'm thinking of a colour shift too. Yeah, much better. Although before we go out to the motorway, here's a look at the week's Forza shop. We've got ourselves the Ferrari Enzo UK race gloves, the dial-up modem, which sounds a lot like my brain. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. We've also got ourselves the McLaren Senna, which is a really nice car to have, and the Hot Wheels suit if you want to look dapper whilst driving said McLaren. We've also got ourselves the Horizon Super Wheelspin and the regular Horizon Wheelspin as well. But now, out to the motorway. Alrighty, here we are now over at the edge of the motorway. Let's go ahead and slap on some launch control, and away we go. Let's go ahead and see what we get out of this thing. We've got some decently tuned gears, and honestly I think this thing could do pretty well. We've got 1,200 brake horsepower. Somebody it's just sat stationary there. But yeah, let's go ahead and see what this thing can do. I wonder if having the roof down makes a difference. And out of the speed zone at 250.31 miles an hour, we are steadily still climbing. We're at 253 right now, and we of course have ourselves a downhill and speed camera still to go, so let's go ahead and keep going. And there's the camera, 254.75, going downhill, 258, 259, do we get 260? We do. Any more than that? 261 for just a split second, which is still pretty decent out of this thing, considering it still weighs about as much as your next nearest warehouse. But now we're going to go ahead and take this thing where no warehouse has gone before. And no, I don't mean to space. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw this thing in and get drifting. Let's go ahead and see how much sideways we can get out of this thing. That is a real lot of sideways. Okay, going out the drift zone at 40,842 points, which is very much unexpected of this thing. You know, considering it's very, very heavy. And now we've set a score to beat, we've got to go ahead and try and beat said score. So we're going to go ahead and throw this thing in, hope for everything that we don't clout the bridge, try and keep it sideways, and out the other side at 35,917 points, which is still pretty decent. The fact it got 40k the first time is honestly a surprise. But that is the Mercedes SL63. This thing is honestly just, it's chaos. I love it. It's definitely worth picking up, and I'd highly recommend it. I mean, especially in the blue, just look at it, it looks fantastic. But in the meantime, thank you very much for watching. Feel free to go ahead and share this video with anybody else, because we are really close to 1k now, and I'd love to try and get that before, let's say, probably about the end of April, start of May, and we are super close. But any little effort or sharing would be greatly appreciated. But thank you very much for watching. I'll go ahead and see you all in the next one. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all that cool stuff. And yeah, thanks for watching. Tech out. See ya. Oh dear, please turn!